to approve the minutes? All those in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye.
Board member comments. Marty, why don't you start?
I just got some bad news that one of our esteemed members is going to be retiring.
Mr. Koblos, why don't you start?
Quite frankly, I don't like that news, but other than that, I have nothing to add.
Thank you, Mr. Soul.
Yes, my thunder has been stolen. As of the end of this year, I'll be retiring from the board, 14 years, plenty. And, time to get on to the next chapter of my life. No responsibilities.
No such thing.
Thanks.
Yeah, there's no such thing. Well, thank you. Mr. Kelly?
I don't know what to say after that. Welcome back, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the summer. And Mark, thank you so much for your service. It's been a true delight and a pleasure to serve as your vice chair and then to take over as chair.
Thanks.
Good job as a chair as well. Great job.
Thank you.
So sorry to see you go. Hopefully we get somebody halfway decent to take your place. Yeah, so good luck to you.
Thank you.
We'll see you for the next couple of meetings.
Mr. Campbell?
I'll save my comments for when it's Mark's last meeting. But, yeah, I hope everyone had a great summer and, that's all I got.
Thank you. Mr. Bonfils?
I'm hoping we have a roast for Mark and I'll save comments for that, but thank you for all your support and guidance. Wouldn't that be
I'm
fun?
an
a
easy
roast?
target.
Oh, it'd be fun.
I got thin skin.
But I don't have much to report. I did take a walk down to the reservoir from my house and it looks like it's up a couple of feet, maybe 3 feet with these last big rains. So let's keep our fingers crossed for some more rain and fill in the reservoir. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Angeline?
Yeah, no comments, but, I just wanted to thank Mark and we'll have a chance to, roast him on it sounds like on the backside, but right now I'll thank him for.
I'll give you guys a list.
Into the, so this is the pleasant side, and then we'll roast you on the other side.
Okay.
Thank you, Keith. Yeah, I'd like to welcome everybody back. I hope everyone had a great summer. It was a hot one, but a good one. I want to thank staff and Carla and Jewel for organizing the upcoming tour of the Reservoir Park. I think that's going to be really interesting. Looking forward to it. Hopefully the weather will be fine. And then shout out to staff for the drought notifications. It was nice seeing the email, and there was even a nice little sign at the entrance to our community. You kind of had to slow down to read it because some of the words below the headline were small, but still it was well thought. And I think I heard some feedback from the community that it was good to have that reminder. So thank you for doing that. And then good luck to Mark on his surgery on the 21st.
Thanks.
He's gonna have all of his body parts replaced.
That's right. This $6
short-
million man.
So good luck with that, and we will we'll roast you at a future date.
For you young people, I don't know if you know what the $6 million man was.
Yeah.
It was a TV show.
I actually don't know what it is.
Wow.
Brent.
We'll have to,
That's too old.
we can talk after the meeting.
Kind of like RoboCop.
Okay, general manager's report, Carla.
Thank you. Just a couple things of note. So back in May at the Finance Committee, staff presented an information item about the Luckett's transfer of ownership of the Luckett's Elementary Wastewater Treatment Plant to Loudon Water pursuant to our policies and upon payment of a revenue equalization fee. The Board of Supervisors, Finance, Government Operations, and Economic Development Committee approved this plan at its July meeting. So we are working with county staff on the service agreement that will come forward to you for approval in the next few months. It's fall, and that means it's festival season. Loudon Water will be participating in some upcoming community events. So if you're in the neighborhood, please stop by and say hello. On September 16th, we will be at the Claude Moore Park Fall Festival. On October 7th, we will be at Sterling Fest as well as Brambleton Bram Fest. So please again, stop by. Chair Allen mentioned the tour on October 3rd. Jewel will be sending out an email with some additional information and details about that tour, where to meet, and some information about what to wear, safety, helmets, things like that. So all the details to come. Also, let's see. So board members, you may recall that staff has given some presentations at the Water Resource Committee about the lead and copper rule revisions, which require that drinking water utilities conduct a lead service line inventory and make those results publicly available to our customers. So we know that our distribution system is 100% lead free, which includes all pipelines and service lines up to the customer meter. The majority of our customers' service lines from the meter into their homes, we know are also lead free due to when those homes were constructed. However, there are a relatively small number of customer-owned service lines, approximately 5,600, which are considered unknown and must be physically verified as non-lead. And I am pleased to announce that staff worked diligently to apply for bipartisan infrastructure law grant funding through VDH. And we were notified yesterday that we have been awarded a $250,000 grant to support our work on verifying these unknown service lines. We currently estimate this grant will fund the majority of our work on that inventory phase. And I want to give a shout out to Jessica DeZara and a number of people here at Loudon Water that are working on that project. So congratulations to them for that grant funding. Some statistics: ERCs through August totaled 1,869, which is about 80% of our year projection of 2,350. Some reminders about your upcoming meetings, pending approval of selection committee. That committee will meet next Tuesday at 9 a.m. here in the boardroom. If you prefer remote participation, please let Jewel know. And the committee is also scheduled to meet and have a workshop on Friday, September 29th, also at 9 a.m. The CIP committee meeting will be Thursday, September 28th at 8 a.m. And the finance committee will not have a meeting this month. However, those reports will be loaded in board docs for the board's review. That's it.
Thank you, Carla. Jewel, is there anyone signed up for public comments?
No, sir.
Thank you. All right, adoption of the agenda. I'm going to make a motion to amend the agenda to include action item, which is going to be 6C, which is the creation of the ad hoc GM selection committee. That's obviously not on the agenda, so we'd like to add that. So if someone would second that motion. And all in favor of adopting the amended motion? Okay, thank you. Board committee action, CIP, Marty?
Yes, there were two items. The first item was a approval of design build contract for the community systems ammonia removal project. For those of you who may not remember, the community systems ammonia removal project includes improvements to the Waterford, St. Louis, and I'm not sure how you pronounce it, Alcyon Heights wastewater treatment plant to comply with the forthcoming DEQ ammonia removal regulations. Progressive design build was approved for the project and will ultimately benefit the schedule and provide cost management. The evaluation committee selected Clark Construction Group, teamed with Dewberry, to carry out preliminary stage design. The CIP committee recommended approval to authorize the general manager to execute a progressive design build contract with Clark Construction for the community systems ammonia removal project with a phase one fee not to exceed cost of $3,448,000 and authorize an approximate 5% contingency to be controlled by the general manager for an authorized budget ceiling not to exceed $3,620,400 without further board approval. The CIP committee forwarded this item to today's board meeting to be included on the board action agenda. The second item is for a professional advisor for that project. And by the way, I just wanted to comment that the presentation made to CIP committee explaining the design build project was excellent. I don't know if we're gonna have another presentation, but it was an excellent, excellent explanation. The second item, staff is seeking approval for a task order to Black and Veatch services through the duration of phase one preliminary stage design. The professional advisor will assist Loudon Water in making decisions regarding project approach, understanding and managing project-related risks, and filling in gaps where the Loudon Water team has not yet gained experience. Staff negotiated a task order with Black and Veatch for $379,400 with a 10% contingency for a total of $417,340 to provide these services. The scope focuses on advising and advocating for Loudon Water on PDB specific elements such as detailed cost estimate review and cost management, schedule review and management, early work package preparation, early equipment package preparation, completion stage price development and negotiation, and preparing and negotiating the phase two scope of services for the contract. CIP committee recommended approval of a task order for Community Systems Ammonia Removal Project Phase One Professional Advisor Services to Black and Veatch for an estimated cost of $379,400 with 10% contingency to be controlled by the general manager for a total authorized budget of $417,340. The CIP committee forwarded this item to today's board meeting to be included on the board action agenda. We had a capital construction quarterly report, which as usual turned out to be excellent. We have a good staff keeping change orders down, as I've said many times, much lower than when I was at Fairfax Water. So you guys are a hell of a lot better. And then there was a capital spending monthly report by Lipinski. And I won't go through the whole thing, but the July report showed that 2023 capital spending was reforecast from 112.7 million to 90.8 million. And this is primarily due to spending that is behind schedule or delayed. And that is the story for today.
Thank you, Chairman Sultan. Mr. Kelly, Finance Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Fortunately, I ran out of my house after a very long Teams call for work and I forgot my notes. I'm going to try to wing it. Before I start my report, I just want to thank staff, the DGMs, and the committee members. We had an hour and 43-minute Finance Committee meeting. It was lengthy. A lot of questions were asked. A lot of good information was shared, and I appreciate everybody's engagement in that between staff and the committee members. So thank you for that. That was well done. Covered a lot of ground. So we're going to take a break, as you heard, in September. So leaving that out. So first of all, we had a good monthly summary, usual financial summary from Sally. Everything is pretty much on track. Amy Bevins gave a brief update of the legislative changes to procurement policy. No action required there. It was a minor change. In my mind, it was a minor change, but we have to do that because the Virginia Public Procurement Act requires us to. And that procurement policy is continuously managed by monitored rather by the procurement manager. Brian gave a quarterly investment review, which all things look good, and it's nice to see our investment return not have a decimal point in front of it for change. Anybody who hasn't been living under a rock knows what's been going on with interest rates this year. So we're getting some good, finally getting some good returns on that. Did I miss here? Let's see. And then lastly, we went over the asset management program update. Jessica Zarza gave a good report on that. Mostly what that talked about was our AAA credit ratings and how the three rating agencies view us as a utility and so forth, or how we satisfy the capital needs of the local economy, operations, financials, and our policies and procedures. But recently, in the last few years, the rating agencies have been begun making additional inquiries related to asset management. And the presentation highlighted some of the programs and operations data that affect our credit ratings. And I thought you'd be interested to notice that some of them are. So they'll be asking in the future, what have our drinking water violations been in the last 12 months? Do you have a water loss control program? Can you estimate the number of breaks per 100 miles of pipe over the last 12 months? Our pipes are relatively new, so nothing there, but pipe replacement rate per 100 miles of pipe, percentage of water meters over 15 years old aren't even close to that. Do you maintain a drought management plan? And we'll be talking about that a little bit later in the meeting. We had a great presentation on that and a lot of discussion about the drought management plan, given what's going on right now in the area. Does your long-range water supply forecast include climate modeling? Sanitary sewer overflow rate per 100 miles of pipe? Election system integrity, failures per 100 miles of pipe. So you can tell it's ramping up a little bit, that the questions and the intensity of the reviews to maintain those ratings. But Brian and Sally and others are all on top of that and understand that. So it's all in the positive for us. I think we're well ahead of the rating agencies on those information items. And then lastly, we were told that to be aware that in the future, we may incur additional debt to achieve regulatory compliance, for instance, high levels of PFAS, to take those out. So that could be coming in the future, something that we're aware of, and staff made a note of that. And that's my report.
Thank you, Sean. There's nothing on the consent agenda, and we have two items on the action agenda. The first item is, I think it's gonna be a brief presentation about the approval of a design build contract for the community systems ammonia. So Jennifer, is it Caberline?
Caberline, yeah.
Caberline.
Sure.
I got a 50-50 chance. I still got it wrong.
Well, good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. I'm Jennifer Caberline, and I'm here with two separate action items today. As Mr. Sultan mentioned, there's the design build contract for the community systems ammonia removal project, and then the professional advisor services for the progressive design build project. So I will be presenting a very abbreviated version of the presentation provided during the CIP committee meeting in August. I'll give a brief background on the project and run through the process that we took to select the design builder. But the primary focus will be around this phase 1 design fee that's included in the design build contract that we're requesting today. And then I'll present the recommended motion. If anyone has questions, especially considering this is an abbreviated version of the presentation, please feel free to stop me and I'm happy to provide some additional background. So a reminder on the background and the drivers for the project. So this project includes improvements to 3 of our community systems wastewater treatment plants in order to comply with forthcoming DEQ ammonia removal regulations. So the 3 plants that are included in this project are the Waterford, St. Louis, and Elysian Heights wastewater treatment plants. At Waterford and St. Louis, we're planning to install packaged treatment systems and decommission the existing lagoons. And then at Elysian Heights, we're planning to make some changes to the existing treatment process and mechanical equipment. So relatively small improvements there. Just to give you a better idea of the magnitude of the improvements at these facilities, in the 10-year CIP, we're carrying a construction cost of $25 million. Again, that's just to provide some additional context. But all of these improvements are really necessary in order to comply with the forthcoming regulations. This project will be delivered via progressive design build. So in order to select a design builder for this project, we took a process that was in accordance with our procurement policy. So per our procurement policy, we were required to take a 2-step selection process. Step 1 was the pre-qualification and shortlist, and step 2 was the design builder selection. As part of the second step, we were required to evaluate both technical proposals and then phase 1 cost proposals from the offerers. And through this selection process, the evaluation committee ultimately selected a team that's comprised of Clark Construction and Dewberry. And just a side note, Clark Construction is the prime on the contract, so you'll see on the recommended motion that they are the named entity on the recommended award. So the phase one fee that was proposed by the selected design build team is $3.4 million. And, the evaluation committee, we were very, very challenged with evaluating this fee to ensure that it is reasonable. We're really accustomed to evaluating fees for design bid build projects, where we're looking at professional services contracts as a percentage of the projected construction cost. But here, design build is an entirely different process. So we couldn't really use some of those comparative metrics that we typically do look at. But we were able to look at quite a few things to really help ensure that we were comfortable with this fee. First of all, we looked at the phase one fee as a percentage of the overall projected costs of the project. And we expect that phase one will be about 12% of the anticipated overall costs for the project. So at first glance, that might look a little bit high, but that phase one includes a lot of activity. So it does include the design and permitting of the 3 facilities, but then it includes all of these design build tasks here that are really unique to the progressive design build process. And these tasks are really intended to benefit us through the full life of the project. And really, a lot of the benefits, especially, around the detailed cost estimating, cost management, early equipment procurement packages, and completion stage price development, we'll realize those benefits during phase 2 of the project, which phase 2 relative to phase 1 is the big dollar component of the progressive design build contract. So considering all that phase 1 entails, really that 12% makes sense. We also were able to rely on our professional advisor. So we retained Black & Veatch as our professional advisor through the design build selection process, and they're experts in design build. So they have a lot of experience with the process. They're able to draw on data and information that they have available for other projects to really help us understand that this 12% is within the expected range for similar progressive design build contracts. Mr. Zakar, do you have a question?
Yeah, very quickly. Thank you. I've been through this, but there's something caught my eye. So it is like hourly not to exceed, right?
Yes.
So what is the cost of that for the total phase 1 fee? Just to get a clear indication. That's the part like I remember I was not, sort of, I need to catch up on.
Sure, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
So the phase 1 fee, so the hourly not to exceed structure is basically a time and materials structure. So that's how we compensate the design builder. So
Yeah.
it's very similar to how we compensate, engineering services. So that's basically saying that if we don't use some of our scope, then we don't pay for it. It's not a lump sum fee.
So no, but there's not an exact number that we're looking at, right? Exact rate for hourly not to exceed. There's just we just have that clause in there. I understand, right?
Mhm.
But
Right, so-
there's not an amount tied to that hourly not exceed.
Right, if I may try to assist
Yeah.
here, so this $3.448 million is the budget estimate for the project that was built up based on an estimate of hours required to complete
Oh.
this project. So what Jennifer's trying to say is that if they don't need all of those hours, we will not expend all of those hours. And we can draw on some recent experience as we've worked with Clark in the CMAR process for the Milestone Reservoir project. We've been very conscientious with the budget on that project, and they've proven to be conscientious with that budget. And we've also recently conducted some, look backs at some of our POs that we've issued under our basic ordering agreement contracts with Dewberry. And we see that more often than not, we're completing those projects, several increments below budget. So that offers you any peace of mind.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for filling in that piece that was missing. Thanks.
Who's
Absolutely.
reviewing the hours? Is this our assistant advisor that's going to review the hours?
So the evaluation
Black and
committee.
Beach, I mean,
Yeah, so Black and Beach has reviewed the hours and so has the evaluation committee. So we've reviewed that and.
no, I mean,
Except
who's
the-
gonna review them after they do them?
I'm sorry. So as the invoices come
Yeah,
in,
yeah.
so the Loudon Water team managing the project will review the hours and our professional advisor will also review the hours as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And that was one of the things that I wanted to point out in regards to the fee is that because it is an hourly not to exceed structure, we do have an opportunity for some cost savings during phase one. We really built in a lot of flexibility in the scope. So for example, with those early work packages and procurement packages and completion stage price development, we've built in like 5 work packages and then 3 completion stage price packages, 1 for each facility to help us potentially maximize the progressive design builds process. So if we end up going down a route where we only have 2 early work procurement packages and 1 completion stage price, then we only pay for that and we have some cost savings there. So does that make sense?
Yeah.
Great. So are there any additional questions on the fee? I think that's basically what I wanted to cover, that we were able to really review the fee. It makes sense. We were able to consult with our professional advisor who has experience in the design build realm and can confirm that this 12% for phase one relative to overall costs is within the anticipated range. And I apologize. One additional thing that I wanted to mention regarding this fee. So through the selection process, we had an opportunity to review the proposed phase one fee from the other offers. So we were able to check the fee from the selected design builder against the other 2 cost proposals, and all 3 of them were relatively in line and relatively close. So that helped to really boost our confidence in what we were seeing here.
Has there been other projects that Clark's done for us any time recently? I don't remember seeing their name but they have, I guess. I see Kendra nodding, so.
They are the current contractor on the CMAR delivery of the Milestone Reservoir
Oh, okay.
project. Yeah.
Okay, all right. This feels like it's a small thing for them. It's just, I was just funny seeing their name on something like this. I think of them as,
That's 27 million now.
but just the
this is
fact that these are
phase one.
such small little package
I
plans,
guess.
I don't know.
We asked that question. We had the same, concerns during the evaluation process, and they were able to answer our questions. They have a wide range of experience, and Clark Water will be conducting the work, and they're a subsidiary of
I
Clark
didn't even know there
Construction.
was a
So,
Clark Water.
yeah, yeah.
They're
Yeah.
so big, I guess. They got
Yeah, they have a wide range of
subsidiaries on
projects.
subsidiaries.
Mhm.
Okay, great.
Yeah. Yes.
And I'm assuming the CIP was comfortable with this. I'm assuming that's the case, but
Marty, I'll let you speak. Decided this will go on the action item.
Yeah.
Yeah, so,
When decide to go on the action item because it's a new process. in
Yeah.
case there are questions.
exactly, yeah,
Yeah, this is the design build.
It's a little
sure.
different.
yeah.
But the CIP committee was comfortable with this, I'm assuming.
Yes.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah,
great.
Yeah, I only had questions which Jennifer answered was around the controls that we had in place. When you have the contractor, you've kind of put all your eggs in one basket. When they're doing design and the build, you're not getting a chance to, but I've been assured and based on the discussion, there's controls in place to manage that, and we can basically, if we're not happy with what they've come back and proposed in the construction or the build phase, we have a chance to halt or negotiate better terms for it. So.
Yes, we do have the opportunity to, once the design is complete, to actually go out to public bid.
Mhm.
So that's built into our contract that we have the ability to do that. We don't anticipate that we'll need to do that, but the safety net's always there.
Yeah, that's one of the things I've seen in the past, that would be of concern is that you're so quickly tying to one horse in the race that you don't get a chance to reevaluate and see if they're offering the best price.
And one thing for a future discussion, not today, but, as we've talked about broadly over the years and with the county about Western Loudon. Obviously, this is not within our central service area. And so periodically, there's the discussion of, sure, we'll go and fix these issues when they come up, but it's very inefficient and it's much more expensive. And so I don't know if you all at some point in the future could say, maybe it's on a per gallon basis or something, but, some delta to show that it costs this to produce or treat X number of gallons in the central service area. We're paying something like this for the western part of the county, but just as those discussions continue to take place, and they will continue to take place, just to help the county understand that this is a much more, and I know we blend everything all together too, which is partly why I'm saying this, but just so that we can have some of that data to show that this is a more expensive undertaking to be doing these little package plants and making these adjustments.
Wait, so I just want to extend on that. You are in line with my thought on that, so thank you. I appreciate that. So it's a great idea, I think, to kind of do a cost breakdown, right? For people to easily understand. I thought about that too.
I
so
mean,
that's
we have a
why
lot of things
Yeah.
that we're helping service outside of the central service area. And so I don't know what the best way is to do that. I don't know the best way to do that, but I'm just putting that out there that maybe at some point, there's some simple metric that we can point to and just help communicate that with the county. So
Well, you've often heard us talk about this, that we are always been so careful. We don't sort of want to be the tool that's the dictating land use, but we have had these conversations. And I would say the best answer to your question, the right timing for that conversation is during the general plan updates. And we have tried, we've done that. That's the right time, because right now, central system connections in the west, they aren't possible from a land use policy. So we try to have generally those kinds of conversations during that general plan update, because we've been very active and involved and have those conversations. I think we'll continue to do that. And I think that's the right timing for that.
I was going to add to what Mark was saying, and to your point, Mr. Campbell, I think projects like this upcoming Paonian and Waterford concept, those start to, I think, broaden the thinking along the lines of what you're speaking to. And
well, and some of the genesis for that is I had discussions with supervisors last week about some of these topics, Western Loudon supervisors. And so I'm speaking in generalities that, hey, it's more expensive to be doing this approach. And like Luckett's, we talked about Luckett's, and you all know, perhaps you're communicating with the staff there. I don't know, and the supervisors don't know in terms of numbers or even general numbers. We just know that generally speaking, it's more expensive, but is it at 10%? Is it at 20%? Is it 50%? We don't know. But so I'd like to be able to be armed with a little bit more information or knowledge to be able to communicate more effectively and go, yeah, every time we're doing a Paonian Springs and we're doing a St. Louis and we're doing a Waterford and we're doing this and this and this, we can do them, but it's a lot more expensive, and we blend all the rates together and all this. So it's not, we're not unfairly, or we're not burdening one system too much, but it's important for them to know I think it's important for them to know, and I'd like to know. So.
No, that's a really good point. And excuse me for one second. If it wasn't for the ammonia, would we have to be doing anything with these facilities? The new requirement? I mean, they were functioning fine, right? They just can't handle the new ammonia standards. And then remember too, these used to be independent systems that the communities were financially responsible for. So can you imagine, giving Elysian Heights a $10 million, $12 million bill for this? I mean, from a political standpoint, it would have been a mess. We'd have all three of those neighborhoods in here right now with signs and pitchforks. So it was a difficult decision that the authority made years ago, but it was the right one, I think. But your point is well taken, Brett, that, it would be nice to know the numbers so that when we have conversations with people, we say, look, these are expensive. We're doing them, but they're expensive. So, sorry, Angela.
No, I totally agree. I totally support that. And why is it expensive, right? So not just numbers, but numbers come with a story. And so being able to provide why is it expensive? I mean, that's.
Everything's expensive now.
Yeah, but why is it expensive? right?
It's,
We own an explanation where we do, so totally agree with that.
Well, I think it's mainly just an economy of scale. I mean, this is an economy of scale business, so when you're doing it in small little pieces, it's just a lot more expensive and that's, so, yeah.
perfect. Can someone read the recommended motion on the
I'll do that.
CIP?
I move the board authorize the general manager to execute a progressive design build contract with Clark Construction Group LLC for the community systems ammonia removal project with a phase one fee not to exceed cost of $3,448,000 and authorize an approximate 5% contingency to be controlled by the general manager for an authorized budget ceiling not to exceed $3,620,400 without further board approval.
Happy to second that.
All those in favor?
Good job. You're making a mistake.
B, so is there a presentation for that one too?
There is, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and thank you. And this should be relatively quick as well. In terms of the request for the professional advisor services, just plan to talk through some of the roles and the benefits of having a professional advisor on board, review the phase one scope and fee for the professional advisor, and then present the recommended motion. So a professional advisor is really a very typical entity for progressive design build projects, especially in cases like the ammonia removal project, where an owner like Loudon Water is taking on progressive design build for the first time. So the professional advisor is really an expert in the field of alternative delivery and specifically progressive design build. So they can really draw on a lot of their experience and knowledge to help guide us through the project and to ensure that we make the right decisions and that we manage risks appropriately throughout the project, so that we gain the most benefit that we can out of this progressive design build process. And so, as I mentioned, we've been working with Black & Veatch as our professional advisor during the design builder selection phase. So the contract that we're requesting today is essentially to extend Black & Veatch's professional advisor services for us into phase one of the progressive design build project. This will be a task order that's issued under an existing BOA agreement with Black & Veatch. So in terms of the scope and the fee for our professional advisor, so in order to properly advise us, Black & Veatch really needs to be included in all of the project activities, all of the meetings, reviewing the deliverables. But we really tried to focus in their scope and their fee on advising us through the specific progressive design build elements where we do not yet have experience. And we really, need them to kind of advocate for us. So, the majority of their scope is really built into these cost management tasks, and then the early work package and equipment procurement, development of the completion stage price, and then also assisting us through the phase two negotiations when we get to that point. So the total fee that we have for our professional advisor for phase one is $379,000. I'm happy to answer any questions.
It's
Yeah.
their responsibility to make sure that we get what we want, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
I'll read the motion.
Real quick, do they have a fiduciary responsibility to us?
Yeah, the contract is with us, right? Yeah.
Yes, their
Yeah.
contract is directly with us. They have no contractual relationship with Progressive Design
Okay.
Builder.
Yeah.
So they're there just representing us in this particular transaction and project. Okay.
Mhm. Yeah, and that, this nice graphic that shows the progressive design build structure, that is that professional advisor piece. That non-contractual relationship just demonstrates that they're involved with the design builder, but they're really part of us, right? They're advocating for us.
And I'll mention, we have a very similar relationship right now with the Milestone Reservoir project where Black & Veatch is serving this same role. And we'll be bringing that item forward in October, but the relationship is proving to be very fruitful as we enter these final stages and we're reviewing the contract price and working through value engineering and so forth. We can just attest to that it's a fruitful relationship and a benefit.
So you all have been very pleased with their representation and so forth.
Mhm.
There's a, interestingly enough, a little bit of tangent, very short, very small. Black and Veatch was the first, was involved in the first undergrounding of 500 kV lines in the US in California. And because of this, all these power lines coming down Route 7 and so forth, it's been a discussion. And it's remarkable how many business units they have and how sort of cutting edge they've been in other areas, not water per se. No, I'm sure maybe water too, but at least with electrical and other things. So I'm glad to hear they say that they're doing well for us.
If there's a dispute between the designer and the contractor, what happens? How is that resolved?
Between the designer and the contractors. So they're a single entity. So we're really not involved with that. That's really
So
their
does
responsibility
our
for resolving that.
Professional advisor handle that then? Do they?
They can, I mean, if anything comes our way, they can help us navigate that. Yes,
Okay.
but if there's any decisions that we need to make, but that's really, that relationship and that contract between the design builder, we're not involved in that.
Okay, right, thanks.
Quick question here, the professional advisor contract, is there like a breakdown of what they are going to provide? Like list by list for us? We don't need to see that at the board when we just want to make sure that that contract lays out like sort of like a list of things that, so we can keep in check with them.
Yeah, that's what Jennifer has. This is sort of the summary bullets of what the
Mm-hmm.
contract
And
entails.
Mr. Sakara, I think what lies beneath this list is our scope and fee that we've developed with Black and Veatch for this work. And it provides a much more detailed version of this and all the expectations and schedule and hours associated with each of these tasks.
And what they are going to do for us, right? I mean, I agree with you, Elton. I mean, there's the list of responsibilities and the things that they're going to do with us, like a total breakdown of that. So that there's no ambiguities and, gaps and inefficiencies, okay? Who said what and what was done?
Mhm.
So, if it's list that in the contract, then that would be great. Because that's what professional advisors are supposed to do. They're supposed to break down and say, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to do this. I mean, the timelines may change, the fees, the fixed cost is there, but what they do for us, right? So it's not like a who said what. Sure, they're going to do that, but we just want to make sure that we have our grounds covered.
Yes, absolutely. And we have a very detailed scope that's put together and a detailed fee. So yes, this is a roll up of the fee that we have, but that is part of the contract.
Making sure. Thanks.
I have a question. You probably don't know this, or maybe it varies. How do they staff this? Do they have one guy or one girl that's an engineer that staffs it, or do they have a team? How do they normally handle it?
Yes, so they do have a team and we have been involved with working with that team to ensure that we're comfortable with the members of the professional advisor team. They have an expert, a professional design build expert that they have assigned specifically to this project. And then they also have a project manager that is responsible for kind of overseeing the progress of the project. And then they also have some folks from their construction arm, because Black and Veatch has a construction arm. So they have some folks identified to help us with the cost management piece and with weighing in on some of the constructability reviews. So they've identified from both their design entity and their construction entity specific staff to help us. And we've had an opportunity to review that and confirm that with them.
Are they located locally?
They have a local team and they are drawing from some of their resources elsewhere throughout the country.
Okay, thanks.
Well, thank you, Jennifer, for the presentations. And then we have one more motion. Jim, you want to read that?
Okay. I move the board approve the task order for Community Systems Ammonia Removal Project, Phase 1, professional advisor services to Black and Veatch for an estimated cost of $379,400 with a 10% contingency to be controlled by the general manager for a total authorized budget of $417,340. Additional costs will require board approval.
Second,
I'll second.
Artie, All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, action item 6C is the creation of the ad hoc committee. There's no discussion on this. It's just a motion to be made to create the committee, and I will read the motion. I move the board approve the creation of the ad hoc selection committee for the purposes of recommending a candidate to the full board to replace the current GM upon her retirement in March of 2024. So would someone second that?
I'll second it.
All those in favor of creating the ad hoc committee?
Aye.
It's created. New business, none. Information items, Mr. Peterson, drought planning and coordination update.
All right. Well, good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. So the information item this afternoon is coming from, we had a conversation with the Finance Committee last week or whenever that was. Of course, everybody's aware of the weather and the dry and hot summer we've had. And so some conversation came up at the Finance Committee, and we had some great back and forth on that. And then the chairman requested that we bring an information item. And so we put together some information. We've got some quick briefings here. And interestingly enough, as we pulled together that package and sent some information to you at the end of last week, then the weather changed over the weekend, which is great in many ways. And we've got a little reprieve. However, I will say that the forecast continues to remain and sort of look like it's been. And from an operation planning mode, we continue to be in the same, kind of operations and planning mode that we've been in, because we expect to be back in that position here. And I think what today will highlight, what we decide is this is a very collaborative effort, amongst several groups in the organization, amongst the region. We're very close because we all share the Potomac River. And so you'll hear some very short briefings that'll be enough to provide, I think, some of the things we're doing, that we're working on, but also the number of different people in the organization and groups that are working on this. And, it'll open up, of course, for any discussion and questions that we have. But, I think one of the things that this sort of situation does for us, there's a lot of things that we can do in planning and doing exercises, but really there's nothing like, sort of real life activities. And, we've heard countless stories through our operations team planning about how being in this, we've really learned a lot. And so it's been good. We've got some updates from the regional perspective and what we expect over the course of the rest of the fall. And, the weather is changing, the temperatures are getting cooler. So we'll continue to get a little bit of help, but we remain very vigilant with this. So we'll have, these are the 4 categories. You get a little briefing on the central system, the community system, some of the regional coordination we're doing, and our outreach to our customers. So with that, I'm going to first go to Jessica. I think everybody who's going to be speaking. So Jessica will take the first bit here with the central system.
Okay, so in the central system in August, we transitioned the status of the Potomac River and Goose Creek to a caution status due to low flows in both Potomac and Goose Creek, and also ongoing regional drought monitoring that was taking place through August or in the middle of August. So a note about what happens with low flow on the Potomac River. So based on our Loudon Water, Virginia protection permit through DEQ, during times when the river reaches a certain low flow, so in this case, it's 905 million gallons per day or 1,400 cubic feet per second, we have to decrease our withdrawal from the Potomac to meet what Broad Run is discharging back into the Potomac River. So during the end of August, around August 22nd, the river reached this level and we got flexible and we modified operations at Trap Rock and only withdrew the same amount that Broad Run was discharging, which was about 5 million gallons a day. Since then, the projections for the Potomac did spike a little bit with the recent rain, but they'll be right back down to sort of the status, the status flow. Will be under 1,400 CFS of the 905 million gallons a day. And then when it comes to Beaver Dam, that status remained in caution due to the construction at the reservoir for the reservoir park construction. And when conditions allow, we will begin pumping from Goose Creek to Beaver Dam to help fill that reservoir, although we did see quite a bit of increase over the last week with the rain. Any questions?
I have a question. This may be seems silly, but why does the Potomac River ever have low flow? Why can't they just open up the reservoir in Maryland and let more water out? We've got 55 billion gallons up there. Why don't they just allow more water to come down and us never have to worry about it?
So I think Pam is going to talk about that in her
saw
section.
Pam,
So I won't steal her thunder.
I mean, I can't believe that reservoir would ever run out of water.
Well, I think, and Pam will get into it when we talk.
Oh,
about
she's gonna
regional
talk
pit.
about it?
She is gonna
Oh,
talk a
I'm
little bit
sorry.
about this, but I would say,
Okay, no, then
going
don't answer.
beyond that,
Okay.
going beyond probably what she's getting to into your question. It is a limited supply, and the entire volume of these reservoirs are not for water supply only. There's other categories: water quality, whitewater, recreation. If there are releases for other categories, supply is obviously benefits from that. But they those basically the thresholds haven't been met for those to happen. And I'm gonna stop there because Pam will get into
Okay.
that.
Okay.
I have a question. You have down a trap rock withdrawal less than normal from the Potomac and shifted predominantly to Fairfax water. That has no effect on the river, does it? It's still coming into the river.
No.
Very good.
What's the reason for it?
I think, Mr. Sultan, the permit restriction is very forward-looking to a point at which we would be using our maximum
Due to the
capacity from Fairfax Water. And so really our permit is geared toward us being a net zero impact to those other water purveyors downstream of us. It's,
Okay,
It's-
because just looking at it on the, doesn't make any
it
sense.
makes very little sense in the present day, but well into the future, at a point in time when we'd be using our full capacity from Fairfax plus have our capacity at Trap Rock, they would want this provision to be in place, so.
No, it's
Do we have a sense, like, over the last 10 years, how many times it's been in the caution?
wastewater treatment.
Like, is this, I can't, I'm just thinking in my head, I'm going, is this kind of like a once every 2 year thing? Is it, a couple times a year?
This is a once every 90-year thing,
Okay,
something like that.
so we haven't had all this caution in a long time.
I think the last time was, I don't recall that we actually went to a formal program until we released. And the last time we released was 2001.
Not 90
So
years.
20 years.
Okay. Good enough, thank you.
That's when we saw the road in the middle of Beaver Dam. I remember correctly that year, right?
I think that's right.
Yeah.
Oh, is that because we were redoing the dam?
No, this was back because there was no water.
This has been the first occurrence since Trap Rock came online in 2018, which is interesting. And, this is, again, highlighted for us, the importance of bringing the Milestone Reservoir online.
Well, over Memorial Day, we took the kids up to Harper's Ferry and, they got all the notches there. And it's like, wow, water levels really high. And they're out in the middle of the Shenandoah there and playing around and stuff. But I was just thinking, man, when's the last time it was this low? And
2015.
I guess 2001 is what you're saying.
Now you can see why the finance committee took an hour and 42 minutes. All right.
All right, next category, Kinsley with the community system.
Hey, good afternoon, Chairman and the board. Big thanks for having me. Some of my messaging will reflect my colleagues here. It's just the nature of the event. But our groundwater well status remains at caution for three primary drivers. The first one being that it's a very dry year. The second being the state monitoring wells, which are good regional indicators, are very low. And then the third one is our production wells are starting to see an effect at resting levels. They're dropping a little bit. The good news is our monitoring program is very well and system specific, and we can actually pinpoint which wells are having trouble and maybe make accommodations for them. So we look to explore that if this continues. Good news, customer demands have been relatively even and not in excess. This has allowed our wells to rest and get the proper refill that we can actually get from existing water levels. And finally, we all had a collective smile this week when it rained. Just a friendly reminder that it's going to take time for recharge, but we did see a drop in use, which helps everything. Any questions?
So when it turns yellow, what does that mean? Is it a level? Is it? Good, it needs caution. But is there a numerical value associated with the yellow?
We used yellow to highlight to the board that there's a regional issue and it's not affecting our production right now. But if we continue this way, we may be exploring, I don't want to say reduced usage.
But is it
but
empirical?
Yeah,
It is.
we're looking for our wells to recharge overnight to the same level.
It's more qualitative, is what you're
Correct.
saying, right?
Yeah.
So to take a well in Beacon Hill, for example, that normally is 80% full and now all of a sudden it's 50% full. And you expect to see it recharge every day, but now it's 60, 50. It's just, so the level is actually going down. I know it seems like a big
Correct. And
question.
you're not seeing that big a drop though. If you're saying 80% full, we're probably seeing 78% right now. It's
Oh,
a small
really?
drop.
And then recharge, I mean, what's the recharge a year? 4 or 5 inches? Or is it dependent on the well?
Mr. Allen, I'm not sure on the amount of rain we had this year, but we are drastically under what's expected.
I'm not sure how many inches there's cumulatively, it's a lot.
And I think the NOAA website has us as the third or fourth driest year on record since they started recording.
Okay.
All right, well, we'll move on to the regional coordination with Pam.
All right, this is that map you were looking for, Mr. Koblis. So just to acclimate everybody, you see the Savage Reservoir, the Jennings Randolph Reservoir. Those are way up the Potomac in West Virginia and Western Maryland. And then down closer to us in Montgomery County is that little Seneca Lake Reservoir, which is much smaller than the others. The other reservoirs in the system, the Potomac system, currently are the Occoquan Reservoir for Fairfax Water, and then the Patuxent reservoirs are 2 reservoirs that WSSC maintains. So you've got a little bit of system storage and lots of upstream storage. So as the primary source of water supply for the Washington region, the Potomac River, we monitor it year round. And there is a great deal of regional coordination and communication. COG and ICPRB are the 2 regional entities that serve to facilitate all of our regional awareness and action. And the ICPRB staff has monitoring tools and outlooks that they send out on a monthly basis. And recently, in this exceptionally dry period with extreme low flows, they updated the level of monitoring to twice daily and then actually called for drought operations. And that is part of the, I think it's the drought management plan of the co-op entity, and that's what ICPRB deals with. And then COG, because they're actually supporting beyond just the Potomac River users. They actually have a little bit of a broader outlook for the region, and that includes sort of national drought monitoring. There's a D0, D1, D2 levels of dryness. So they're using that protocol to decide what actions might need to be taken. With the last 3 weeks ago, after the ICPRB called for drought operations, the COG called for a drought coordination technical committee meeting. And that really was to decide if the situation had gotten to the point that we should release from the upstream reservoirs. It was a robust conversation. And really, it boiled down to that this drought, this dryness, and the extreme heat that we were experiencing, a week and a half ago was unusual. And they felt that as soon as the temperatures dropped, that likely water demand would drop, and that we wouldn't need to have this formal declaration, frankly, of drought watch. So it was decided by that group not to recommend that. And then they would reconvene, I believe, next week. And after the rainfall over the weekend, it was decided that the drought operations could terminate and that the technical coordination committee doesn't need to meet, but everybody's still continuing to monitor the stream flow, the dryness, precipitation, all of the factors. I guess the summary is that we've got a really well integrated regional network. Lots of pieces here, but it provides all of us with information, and the utilities are all well integrated into that process. And we've been providing information twice a day on our projected withdrawals from the river. So it's, as Mark said, I think it's good for the region to kind of go through this exercise too. And it's also nice when it rains and we get to kind of breathe and get out of it for a bit. But we do expect that the flows are going to stay low. We expect that there isn't a great deal of rainfall in the forecast. And so there's a possibility, like Jessica said, that we'll be falling back below that threshold. That means that we have to restrict our withdrawal from the Potomac.
It's a question here. So the little Seneca reservoir, that's where the Seneca Falls is, right?
Seneca Falls is on the river. The Seneca Reservoir is actually, it's not on the river. It's up it's in Boyd's, Maryland.
Pam, good to see you.
Hi.
Hi. Yeah.
I'm not sure if, where Seneca Falls is, honestly.
I thought it was that, I thought I was trying to connect the dots. I thought the Seneca Falls was there. Yeah. And so is the reservoir. So as I was wondering, if it's there, then, we have a fall there. And so having that reservoir, could kind of support our monitoring program for the drought. That was just my line of thought.
Just north.
It is, right? Okay. I thought so.
So did I hear you right that they did not release any water?
Did not. And that is,
The reservoir, we're never going to release water from there.
yeah, that is such a
Well,
good
there
question.
were some whitewater releases, which again, benefit. So there weren't, they
That's true.
decided not to do releases in the name of water supply, but part of that is because they were already doing
I
the
feel like I'm in
whitewater.
California and they're not going to release unless I give them enough money to release. It doesn't make sense that to put pressure on the county for going into a drought when all we have to do is release some water. We don't have to worry about the drought.
Well, that, that part was very coordinated, and that was why that COG convened that committee to have the discussion, because then they proceeded to have a discussion with the public information officers from all the counties and then the chief administrative officers. And everybody was actually on the same page. They wanted to kind of do their own thing right now.
The feeling is this is not severe enough to.
Correct.
Right.
That's basically it.
Really, really close,
They were close.
but right.
Hmm.
And if it had happened in July, it's quite possible that the decision would have been different.
Mhm.
But they did release some for whitewater
Yes.
stuff.
That's traditionally a scheduled one, I think, every year on September 1st or something like that.
But it actually helps
Right.
environmentally too, which is the other reason they do it, just for, because when you've got a dam system, you have these really consistent flows. And so even that little release kind of provides some riffles for the fish.
And does that last for a couple of days when they do that? Or is it just run through the system in a day, or how?
Well, the time time from Jennings, which is the big one, it actually takes about a week to
Oh,
get
wow.
here. And then it lasts for a couple of days,
Wow,
correct? Yeah.
okay. But yeah, on Memorial Day, there's all these tubers going down the Potomac side at Harper's Ferry. And I was like, people, tube. We were making fun of butts tubes. We're like, nobody's gonna, and there are all these people. And I thought, how are they getting water on that side? And maybe it had something to do with that. Because
Yeah.
the Shenandoah side was super, super low.
That's why they do the release.
Yeah, evidently, I didn't know that.
So is the concern is that they'll prematurely release water and they'll be run out of supply? I'm just trying to understand.
Well, then it continues to get worse and worse, and it gets, worse enough where then they used it up, where the determination was it wasn't really needed yet.
I think that's kind of the answer to Mr. Kovalis's question. It's a lever they weren't ready to pull. And I think there are true triggers to making the release, but
Jennings Randolph Reservoir low, or is it?
no,
It's right off, not like Hoover Dam.
correct.
Right.
Better save that water. Who knows what we're gonna need it for?
So we do have one more category. And,
I have a question.
Yeah.
You may be covering this. Isn't there a study going on to determine an alternate supply of water other than the Potomac River?
well, it's not other than the Potomac River, but it's the Travilla Quarry
Yeah.
in Maryland as additional reservoir, that can be helpful in times like in a drought or a contamination event. And that would be downstream of us, but on the Maryland side, but yes, there is some study.
I thought there was a study that was looking for alternate supply of water if for some reason something happens to the Potomac. Is there a study?
That's
Is
the
that
one,
what you're-
Mark's-
is that
that's
what
the one
you're
Mark's
talking
talking about.
Yeah.
But it doesn't use Travilla's name because because you can't really, pre-decide where it's gonna be, but it's called what's it called? The secondary supply
And,
study.
and there is the
Yeah.
possibility that quarry reservoir could be directly connected for the benefit of Washington Aqueduct and WSSC.
Yep.
And that's where it's the concept you're talking about, but it also could supplement the Potomac River if that's needed as well. That's what the study is going on.
Okay. If Milestone Reservoir was full, could COG or the ICBRB take some of that water, or is it?
No,
only-
that is solely for
Ours.
Loudon Water. That is
No
ours.
touching.
And that's why we agreed to the permit conditions to get off of the river when these situations come up, because we'll have the quarry.
You guys said that was like a 30-day supply, if I'm calling, is that right? It's 30 roughly.
30 to 60, just to
30
get on
okay.
demands, yeah.
These scenarios.
Depends how much water you use.
Correct.
Family of 6.
Oh, my kids don't like to take showers. It's like you in the back.
He should pay a surcharge.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, the last slide.
So last one, Sue will summarize some of our outreach activities.
Yeah, so outreach to our customers is really an important tool when it comes to our drought planning and monitoring. And we kind of group them into these 3 buckets, one being seasonal, ongoing, and then escalated. So seasonal messaging is when we update our website homepage. We usually do this in the spring for our wise water use messaging. And we'll have educational resources linked to that. And then we align our social media messaging along with that to go with wise watering and water saving tips. Additionally, we integrate the call center on hold tips. So when somebody is in the on hold queue, it runs through a cycle of 4 or 5 water conservation tips that people will hear. And then obviously we go to the festivals during the season and we'll hand out shower timers, rain gauges and those types of things, and have in-person interactions with our customers. We use a similar approach in the colder months too, when we message about frozen pipes and protect your pipes in colder weather. For ongoing tools, we have in place to help our customers keep an eye on their daily water usage with our portal LW Connect. And then we also send text alerts and email notifications when a customer is coming within 5,000 gallons of a new water tier that will impact their rates. And then we have escalated situations like we had last week where we can employ additional tactics to push messaging. And then one example, Mr. Allen brought it up earlier, is we posted sandwich board signs at the entry points to our more vulnerable community system neighborhoods, reminding them of wise water use. We also added an important message to our paper bills for 81,000 customers. And then we also used opt-in emails for our customers. We sent a water conservation email blast urging customers to be mindful of their water use because of the drier conditions and to follow the odd even watering schedules based on your home address. And that went to 60,000 customers and had a 70% open rate, which was really good. And short aside, the second we hit send on that email blast, the skies opened up and it started pouring down rain here. So I guess it worked.
I have a question on that. So I'm just curious to know. With this outreach, it's wonderful. I really like it. Did we get any responses from? No. Did we get any responses from our residents and our constituents and, our people here in Land and Water about the outreach?
We did actually.
Yeah, I was curious about that.
Yeah, well, like I said, we had a 70% open rate, which is really spectacular. Usually you get like 30%. But we actually had a customer who emailed Pam and said, wow, you guys don't email me a lot. So I noticed you sent a conservation message and I really read through it and I wanted to take note of my irrigation system. And you can explain more what they were saying, but they were basically, their irrigation system was set based on the water, I guess, weather at Dulles or
based on
Leesburg
Dulles.
Airport.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was just interesting because they actually read through the email and they adjusted their irrigation settings accordingly. So it did not run during the 2 days of rain that we had following the message.
Right. Yeah, because there's no use sending out an outreach. The main goal behind it is obviously to inform, people in our county, but at the same time, what becomes more exciting and interesting is if we get responses like what you said. So thank you for sharing that.
Correct.
Right, because then, the word goes out, right? We can only go so far, but word of mouth and, one community member, one neighbor helps the other understand, and information sharing is just makes, this outreach program that we have here more conducive and, more expandable and,
Exactly.
sort of
Yeah, you're exactly
result oriented.
You're exactly right. And building on what you just said, we also boosted our social media, which ended up, it engaged over 1,000 users. So that was interesting too, with the sharing and the posting. And so that got our message out as well. And then additionally, like Pam was saying earlier, we do a lot of regional coordination. So the COG Community Engagement Campaign had several calls throughout the past few weeks just to align all of our messaging in the region. So we were all saying kind of the same things.
No. Yeah. New people coming into our county that just are new in the United States, a lot of people coming from, different countries. And I've seen an influx of new immigrants coming into this country, and just Ashburn is their first home. So they're really not aware of, how things are handled as opposed to maybe, how it's handled in their country, like somewhere like India. So I take this outreach program really seriously because, it helps a lot of people, so they are, part of our community now. So we want to make sure that they understand how we operate and how we do things here. So thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you very much. That was almost timely, but very informative.
Yeah. I got a quick question about all the coordination with everyone. Does the town of Leesburg participate in that even though they don't have a permit? I only say it because, we're on the town of Leesburg water, even though we're outside of the town, but we've gotten zero communication about use water wisely or anything like this. I've gotten nothing, zippo. And part of that I'm going, well, they don't care that much because they don't have a withdrawal permit. And so that's why I was asking.
Are you sure you live in the good part of town?
Maybe I don't. I live in the expensive part of town. I live in the expensive part of town, the part where they sued Leesburg for double the rates. Yeah. Okay, but they're a part of the coordination and so forth.
They are, yeah. We really are the most proactive in the region when it comes to all of this messaging, and we do it, as Sue said, we just do it every year on a seasonal basis. And people, part of our philosophy is people start to get used to hearing. So when we really need, it's not something really new to them. So we think we've had, a really good response. It's been helpful.
No, it's great.
All right, well, thank you. It was very good. It was a team effort too, so.
Mm.
Okay, on to monthly reports. Sally with the finance summary for the month.
Yeah, it's the same for July. Revenues are looking good, expenses are under budget. So if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Anyone have any questions for finance? The water resource management report from Jessica.
We essentially covered, most everything that's in there.
Just checking, to
So,
make sure
yep.
you're paying attention. Water and sewer agreement by Hue Tran. Anyone have any? All right. BOA quarterly report by Tom Lipinski. Come on, people. Because of the drought level. Yeah,
For Beaver Dam and the other part and not for the, wouldn't drought affect all the other areas?
you have to go back to the report.
The reports, in other words, the water resource report was for July that you saw on the screen.
Oh,
And so we're more
that's
current
right.
with what we were just talking about, but in July, we were still in the,
Yeah,
so yeah, that was the difference.
okay. Thanks, Mark.
Anything for the basic ordering report? Capital construction report? Mark, you gotta have some questions.
Oh, I already did my questions.
Yeah, well, he's just about to retire, so.
Land development,
I'm a lame duck.
I know. It's becoming apparent. Land develop activity, operation and maintenance report. And the safety results. I know all those were good. I looked at them. There was no violation, so that's good. All right. That's it. We have a closed meeting today, so
We do.
we do.
I do have one other. Oops.
Get it in quick.
I do have one other question.
Sure.
I received an invitation to attend the 2023 Potomac River Conference, Perspective on Changing Climate. And I wondered if any other board members were going.
When is it?
It's next Thursday. I know Pam is going from Loudon Water also.
Well, I would encourage Mark Kovalos to go to that.
I will. Yeah.
No, but thank you, Jane, for
Yes.
sharing that. And
Okay.
if I was in town, I would.
I will say it is sold out. It was a hot ticket to get. So Mr. Bonfils, you were lucky to get it.
Oh, I am? Okay.
Yeah, they are at capacity
That was
for
a good
that. I know
time.
that.
It's a hot ticket.
Jim, you can share the highlights of the.
Yes.
I will.
This is
Take
great.
take good notes and you can give us
I
an
will.
update at the.
I'll give you an update at the next board meeting then.
Yeah, I was trying to go to Colorado, right?
Okay.
For the meeting.
Are you going?
Right, that concludes the open portion of the meeting.